Hi, my name is Sohail. I'm the founder of Soul and the host of the Oops, I Said God podcast. Today, I am with a luminous soul. I really needed this conversation. I'm with Nathalie Wahlberg. I think of her as a yogi. She's an expert in dance. She did research on presence. She's going to talk to us about embodiment. What does it mean to embody the divine? Very light topic, I understand. Natalie, it's so wonderful to
Thank you.
have you here today. And again, this is a fun conversation.
Yeah.
I would love to just start with the story. You were a dancer for many years. Tell us how you got into that. What inspired you to move into dance? And then what were you seeking by doing?
Thank you first for
Yeah,
inviting me to the
sure.
podcast. I think I have always been a mover, if that's a way to express who someone is, both like all with the time searching for experience inside and outside, something that not just physically moving, but moving myself
Yeah.
somewhere in the world, somewhere in my life experience, somewhere beyond the limit of what I know life is now.
Okay.
And I think that urge was all the time in me.
Yeah.
But I started dancing when I was very young.
Mm.
And I oh very young.
Like so many of us, right?
So many of us. But I was doing figure skating. And I think that was more like this visual idea
Yeah.
of this beautiful ice queen that, kids want to be ice princess and then they want to work with dolphins. And then, yeah, this it happens. And it's a narrative that many has. But I remember, so my mom went with me to the ice hall like every third day or something. And I like waiting for me and in the cold space. And then after a practice one day, and I loved having this skirt that was like when you jumped, it was on the ice, it was like making a little, or when you were spinning, like it was one thing that the image was something that I liked. And then there was these two girls that were in the dressing room or like where they were taking off their skates, and they were like, "I'll see you in ballet on Saturday," to the other girl, and I was like, "Ballet? Oh, mom,
I gotta do that.
can I do that?" She was like, "Sure."
Oh, wow. I like your mom.
Yeah. And then I wanted to do a running, and she was like, "Sure." Then I did everything. But
That's so sweet.
basically with the ballet, I think she was just benefiting from the fact that she could sit and do her work in the dressing room without freezing her
Yeah.
fingers off, like working.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this was my first sort of encounter or like with the dancing, but it was still movement. I had this urge to physically do something, and I have always moved. I always wanted, always hungry for something that which happens inside of you when you challenge, when you work with your body
Yeah.
and your mind.
So you end up getting into the world of dance, very much, in the intensive world of dance.
Yeah.
And as you get deeper into it, what do you start discovering? And why don't you share also what I'm sure you will, what ends up happening too, right?
Yeah. Obviously, it's a long journey.
Yeah. Just in 10 seconds.
Yeah, 10 seconds.
No, I'm just joking.
No, but I wanted to become a professional dancer.
Yeah.
But I didn't understand what that was until I met my first like really professional teacher. His name was Laszlo, and he was Hungary, and he was teaching like ballet. He was teaching the Vaganova system, like Vaganova, the Russian system. And I worked really intense with him, and I saw him as my teacher, not because he just learned me the technique or taught me the technique. He taught me also what it was to be professional.
Yeah.
So I started to understand the commitment. What do I need to do in order to fully commit
Yeah.
and be present in the work of dance?
Okay.
And he would not challenge. We would go on these crazy summer camps. Like we would go for 3 weeks in Hungary, in Budapest, and we would have literally one day off in 3 weeks, but everything was planned from 9 to 9 with so much training. I've never been that sore before in my life. And I remember partly like asking him like, I cannot move. I'm so sore. What do I do? He's like, when you feel that pain, you work harder than you ever done before, and it will disappear. This is hard school, like this is hardcore. But I think that it's taught me that you perceive your limit. And if you then stop at your limit, you cannot expect to move beyond it. And And I think that's how I've been doing it my whole life. And he also taught me that there was not only the steps I needed to work on. He would one year put me in a single room. Everyone was sharing. This was camp. They're like, no, you have too many things going on. You need to pack your bag. And I had so many things going on. People got annoyed with me because I wanted to be organized and prepared and everything. He was like, you're going to deal with that for yourself and just notice. So he would like, and then he would put me in a repertoire that I was like, this is far beyond my level. He's like, yes, you're going to do that. And, or he put me on a schedule where
Yeah.
I didn't even have a break. I didn't have time to eat. And he was like, oh, you're going to manage that. Just notice how you manage. And so he taught me like, that I don't know if it was the right school, but it's something about this very, oh, what can you say? Right word is coming, or the is commitment
Yeah.
and like passion and drive.
Okay.
And moving forward, I met other teachers like that really taught me through their commitment to me and my journey, like gurus, but in the most selfless ones, even though they were performers. I've
Yeah.
seen much more of ego acting out in yoga world than in dance world.
Oh, we'll get into that.
Yeah. And so I think they were so much in service for the journey of the students. And it came to a point when I graduated ballet school as a contemporary dancer. I had already been traveling a lot, doing a lot of, I knew where I wanted to go, I knew what I wanted to do. And I remember being in this graduation piece on stage at the big stage of contemporary dance in Stockholm, which was a dream at that time. And I was having like one role in this piece that we were doing. It was beautiful. It was really honorable to dance this. And been drilled for 3 years to do it, like perfectly. And I remember being on stage in this very special moment, thinking, I want to soak this moment up. I want to be here fully. And then in the middle of the piece, I'm thinking about what I'm going to eat for dinner, or like that I'm hungry. And I got so upset with myself.
Yeah.
I got so upset that I wasn't just fully absorbed by the moment. And I think that's where something shifted in my will to research the present.
So what shifted,
Mm.
and how did it lead you to digging your grave?
Yeah, I think that there there was something that after a while, this came a little bit later, like this naming of the research of presence and wanting to really embody it. But it came to a point where nothing felt authentic anymore.
Mm.
I had been dancing a lot. I had a lot of vocabulary. I traveled the world. I worked with a lot of people, just absorbing, being able to perform like various type of choreography
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
And it came to a point in a workshop with one of my favorite teachers that he was like someone that I followed and that I learned a lot from. And we were in the countryside of Rome. It's 2012. And I thought we were going to learn the repertoire and work and create a piece together. Like, I
Yeah.
really urged for that. His mind was beautiful in the way that he was creative and the metaphors he created physically. But he was like, you guys are going to create your own thing. And I was like, oh. And I had all the time been like this body for interpretator. Did you say that? Many dancers are.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I started and I was like, oh, I felt like every movement I did, I got frustrated because I felt like I know that movement. It's from that person. I'd done this there. And then nothing felt it really came from me. And I needed like a deeper research, or it just didn't feel real.
Yeah.
And I was searching for realness, something crisp. I was searching for, it still needed to be physical, it needed to be repetitive, it needed to feel very challenging, and like that I needed to overcome something in order to engage with it. So I was in this workshop, and everyone were hanging out in the studio starting to create ideas. And I was like, oh, maybe I should stand on my hands. Like, I started to do handstand, which I've done developed a lot further in these years. But it was my first, I just had the desire of doing something that was like, it's a clear communication. It's happening, it's not happening. It's real, it's not real. I'm in balance, I'm out of balance. Equilibrium is a completely other, a very beautiful metaphor that I
Yeah.
love embodied work with. But And then I wanted to juggle. You drop the balls, you don't do it. And I learned with oranges. Like I was just there, up, down, and juggling, dropping oranges everywhere from the orange trees. And then I came to the point when, because we were supposed to write our own last will, was the idea. And I came to the point where I was like, okay, but what is the last will about? And I realized that so many times I keep things inside and I wait, I don't maybe share what situations or people means to me, and then I regret it.
Yeah.
And that I wanted to have an impact in the now, and that I shouldn't have to be like, oh, I had such a beautiful connection and I didn't say that to you. And then when I die, I'll be like contacting you and be like, oh, you meant so much to me. I'm sorry I never told you. Here, have my something like
Yeah.
my ring that I got from
Yeah.
somewhere, or this meditation amulet, or something like this, or mala beads. I don't know. And so I was like, oh, I want to work with the present moment. That's when I came up with the research of presence. And I decided that why don't I dig my own grave while reading my last will? And they were like, yeah, it was like, and then I narrowed it down. I was like, look, I'm just gonna dig a hole. And my teacher was like, okay. Like everyone dancing in the studio, I'm like, I'm going to dig a hole. And so I went to pick up this shovel from the farmer next door, and they were like, you can dig on the kiwi field. And so I went out to digging, and it was hard. It was like super hot. It was repetitive.
Yeah.
It was challenging. It was not that fun, actually, but it felt so meaningful. No one needed that hole. And I tell you, no one needed that hole. I needed that hole.
Yeah.
And I was just digging and digging. And while I was digging, I had these like realizations, like we're all coming from the same mountain. I saw this pile of soil
Dirt.
building,
Yeah.
yeah, and dirt, like just building next to the hole that I was digging. And I was like thinking about the relationship between heaven and earth, between but above and below, about this. And then I was thinking, when you are a kid and you are building in the sand, like the sand castles, it's normally just a pile, and you're like, this is a castle. You make it
Yeah.
nice. And I was basically like, the metaphor that came up and that I then used for my research of presence was dig a hole, fill it with emptiness, and build your castle by the pieces that remains. So this
Wow.
process of going deep inside,
Yeah.
bringing some of that dirt or whatever it is up to the surface, and seeing the value and the beauty, the jewel in it, and feed off of that as a source of creativity or a source of self development or something. And so this was like the starting point somewhat of doing it differently. I was still identifying with dance though, but I it was something, a way where I started to look for movement situations rather than some kind of expression that I didn't understood. Like I was looking for almost like meditative state situations that can put you in a so deep concentration and immersion
Yeah.
that you're going fully into the present moment. And I would say that's what meditation is about too.
Yeah. And something you mentioned really beautifully is the fact that we all meditate differently, that we all experience divinity and embodiment differently. And it's such a profound story. I feel like it's a metaphor for all of life. Ah, I love that. Something I would love to know then is one is how did you get into basically yoga and
Mm,
this journey of the divine? Because clearly something happened. And then two, another second topic I'd
yeah.
love your thoughts on is so many of us are in our heads. I
Mm,
think so much of the world is in our heads. We're so analytical. We're always thinking about things. And I think to myself, and it's something I'm working on as well, is how can I embody more divinity and to realize God here and now as well as the God above us?
yeah.
So I would love to hear your story of embodiment.
Mm,
And then what is your learnings for your 2 cents
mm,
on cultivating and embodying presence and divinity?
yeah. I feel like that's, we had this talk before, and I feel like it's all evolving around it, and the situations, like the way how life unfolds. I've been on this journey all the time without maybe really knowing
Yeah,
it.
well, that's how it works.
Yeah. But to start with, I wasn't even close to yoga. I in the sense of knowing it. But I think one of the most yogic acts I've done is to dig that hole and with
Yeah,
that
of
commitment
course.
into it. But as I mentioned, like I was in this dancing path. I had a very strong idea of who I wanted to be as a dancer, where I was supposed to dance. And I hadn't stopped for, and this was actually the whole happened just after that. But I had this realization after having just going, not even with a week break from
Yeah.
physical sort of practice and commitment and hard work. I just got a flu. I was in Brussels, I got a flu, and I was in bed for a week, and that was like really abnormal for me at that point. Oi. And really abnormal for me at that point, and I just everything stopped. I was in a place where I was really close to my dream, that I had the idea of who I wanted to be as a dancer, and this is where I'm going to dance, this is what I'm going to do. But I was so miserable, and then I got sick, obviously, but life was not worthy. And I was there in bed, and I just had this realization, like, I am not a dancer. Dance is something that I do, and it seems like ridiculously easy. It was not that easy to realize, because if we talk about divinity, if we talk about the rationalized society and the identification, we talk in yoga about avidya, the veil, or like the misidentification.
Yeah.
And our illusion is that we identify with the role of what we
Yeah.
do. And
Yeah.
we have so many roles, though, in
Mhm.
our life. But we identify with it so much that we lose touch with our own divinity,
Yeah.
or our own soul, or who we really are, or what is the essence of who we are.
Yeah.
And in that moment, I just started to see dancing differently. I started to see, I almost got disgusted about going to class, the professional classes with everyone just trying to make their way. And I was like, wow, no, like we're doing dance here, but I shouldn't be, I don't know, judged, or because I'm doing a pirouette better or worse, or because I can do this trick, or
Yeah.
so much competition. And I just felt like there must be, what is the essence of dance, that what, there must be something else that makes my heart pound, because it was like, if we talk about the divinity, or if we talk about what sparked inside of me being in dance, or being in movement, or being a mover, there was something beyond just executing movement. And I think it's that passion and that the drive and this, yeah, the how the heart was beating
Yeah.
for it, that
Yeah.
that I was like, it must be in something else. And that's took me a little bit on the journey of starting to like, why am I dancing? I didn't maybe think about that so much. It's about community. It was about, yeah, people, community, travel, about expression, about creativity, about connection, about getting to know myself, getting to challenge myself. So many things, so many other works or other professions that you can do that,
Yeah.
or life
Yeah.
situations.
Yeah.
So it also liberated me a little bit from this misidentification of the dancer, to move forward in exploring what was this concepts of life that that
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
have the drive for.
Yeah. And so you get into yoga, and or you move into that direction. And I know that between that and yoga, there was you were identifying in other ways to other
Mm.
identities. Tell me, how did your relationship with the divine change? Like when you were a dancer, how conscious were you about God? And then how did you get to God and that particular modality,
Mm.
that path?
So
And when we talk about yoga, just for the audience, we're talking about yoga in the studio in the
yeah,
United States and across the world, the
yeah,
studio
yeah.
yoga. But Natalie also has been going very deep, obviously, in the spirituality of yoga and how we
Mm.
embody embodiment. How do we embody embodiment? How do we bring embodiment to our practice
mm.
of being
Mm.
human?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's very much about that connection with other being, like seeing yourself in others.
Yeah, but it's easier said than done, let's be
Yeah,
honest. And then
yeah,
also, because sometimes people piss you off.
yeah, they
I'm
do.
gonna be honest with you. I was just reading a book of the Zohar, which is in the Kabbalah tradition, and
Mhm.
talking about treating others like yourself and having love for them, and that's also a way to channel the divine attributes, because God is more loving to us than ourselves to
Yeah.
ourselves.
Yeah.
So there's that element of
Mm.
embodiment of how we
Mhm.
treat other individuals and see them as a part of who we are, but then there's
Yeah.
also how do we see our own reflection.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm very curious of how those veils
Yeah.
melted away for you to really embody your own divinity.
Yeah, so they're like also from before, like there are different tracks, they are all coming together. But let me pick up like how did I know divinity as a
Yeah,
dancer? I didn't reflect upon it more than my experience of, let's say, embodied harmony or synergy
yeah,
or almost like divine vibration.
mm,
In yoga we talk about prana,
yeah,
the
yeah,
life
yeah.
force, but there is something that happens when you are in resonance with it. Very often we are in disresonance, like we are not connected, we are not in resonance, so there is a tension, there is a
Yeah,
friction,
yeah.
and life doesn't flow, we don't let life unfold. But certain repertoires that I danced and that I was so in love with, it was my dream to dance Rosas Dance Rosas, drumming, like all of these pieces of, I don't know if it was called Hopla or something like this. There are, or that's maybe the movie. Blush, there are companies, but especially I think this choreographer, Anna Teresa de Keshmaker, and her company Rosas. I was in love with it.
Yeah.
And it had a very clear structure in many of her pieces. She worked a lot with repetition but also with release. So you catch and you release a movement. So you all the time need to know you have a suspension, you have a fall, you grab and you catch the movement again.
Oh,
So
wow.
it has a
Beautiful.
very organic way of moving and an extremely beautiful embodiment. But it's also strong and it's
Of
you
course,
need to
you have
force
to be
as well.
strong to be able to
Yeah.
lift it back up,
And
catch it.
and I think that this I remember being in Impulse Dance Festival in Vienna, which was where I was going like every summer to dance and take workshops. And I was always doing these repertoires because I loved it and I just wanted to be ready for the moment when I was gonna get to dance it. Which in the end never happened. But I was dancing, I was in the workshop of drumming and we were like the music, the rhythm, the body, like I was beyond the moment of having to think about each step. It
Yeah,
came natural.
yeah.
And I was in the complete flow of the present moment in the movement. And I get it's not goosebumps, it's almost like the skin is exploding
Oh my
because
god.
you are inside of a rhythm. Like you are embodying the rhythm. It's like you are in full resonance. And I would say that's a divine experience.
Yeah,
I would say that might even be like when you have epiphany or like when you have this greater connection. We also talk about it like in yoga samadhi, for example. Yes, an enlightened person can stay there for a suspended period of time and can be functional in society, liberated while living. That's the method that I'm teaching, Jiva Mukti Yoga. That's what we're talking about. But you can also feel it momentarily. You know what that is because you experience it. Maybe it was just for a moment, or my experience on the dance floor,
yeah,
but it was that full immersion, that kind of divine expression inside. And it's not that I went out from the dance floor and being like, oh, I saw God,
yeah,
but I felt something like that was out of body almost experience. But I was so in my body. I was so in my body. And I think that also to the other question that you have, and you're going to have to guide me back if I'm losing
no, it's fine.
anything.
I'm happy
Yeah.
to.
And in our society, rationalized society,
Yeah,
we are running on a paradigm of productivity and efficiency,
sure, yeah,
on constant stimulation. A break time is okay, stimuli, sugar, social media, coffee, nicotine, like all of these things that makes us constantly run for and consume, and very rarely we regulate. We get worse and worse at self-regulate our system, and so we get less and less connected to our body and
yeah,
our bodily functions.
yeah,
When we talk about bottom up regulation, it means working with your body, with your physical body, to create a deeper connection, or like you regulate your nervous system in order to calm down from these highs or the stress. We are in a paradigm of productivity and efficiency. It's almost, let's say, a busy person has higher credibility or
Yeah.
than someone that has time. But then the
Well,
time that let me say like this: it's credible to be popular and busy, but everyone dreams about the time, and the one that has the privilege to take the time is extremely privileged, because most of us are running, and
yeah.
when we run, or run physically, emotionally, we're stuck in the reptile brain, and we are not able to access creativity, compassion,
Yeah.
and all of these ways that we are in deeper connection with ourselves.
So
And
I think what I'd love to know is, one, what was your journey in with divinity? Like, how has that
mm,
transformed as you've
mm,
gotten moved from dance into yoga? And for those, Natalie, for those who are listening, Natalie is an incredibly renowned yoga practitioner, teacher, guide. And of course, when you have a background with dance, it empowers you in a very unique way. So I'm curious, like, how has your relationship with divinity transformed? And then secondly, for us who are more, I don't even want to say reptilian, because like, that's just feels a little bit too insulting. But for those who are a little bit more in our minds and want to
yeah.
be more embodied
Mm,
and to experience divinity in the
mm,
here and now, what have you learned from others? What have you learned from your own journey that we can do?
mm,
I need help, Natalie,
yeah.
on this. Really, and because it's such a powerful way to know God. I really do. There's the element of prayer, right? A
Mm,
meditation and sitting that we're taught,
mm,
that society tells us to do. Society, meaning even like the world of spirituality,
mm,
right? We talk khalwa and Sufism. We go for hours
mm,
or
mm,
days or whatever it is, praying in solitude and meditation or in the ashrams, etc.
mm, mm,
At the same time, we're human beings, for those
mm,
who are not in ashrams or
mm,
in the mountain hiding and praying, who are part of society, right? And understanding also the transcendent as well as the
yeah.
immanent is important. So, would
Mm,
love your thoughts on those two. Like, just one, I would love to hear more about how your relationship with divinity transformed,
yeah.
and then two, how can those who are needing to learn how to embody, like myself, what should I do? How can I do it, or how should I be? Maybe
Yeah. And it's easy to take it out of your mind and into your body.
tell me how.
Yeah. But I'm thinking where to start. But as I was talking about, like, this misidentification, and that we tend to get so stuck in the roles that we have to perform,
Yeah,
that that's all we do, that's all we focus on, all we want to progress on. And I know that when it's classic saying you lose your identity, or like something needs to break down. I just love the metaphor of the chrysalis, like the butterfly from egg to larvae to cocoon.
yeah, yeah,
But truth is, it's not just beautiful. The butterfly is beautiful. It's the liberated being.
yeah.
Yeah. It went through death. It went through, it needed to let go of an identity without knowing. Needed to be in the unknown. Needed to be where things are out of control and ambiguous and hard.
And
And
dark,
yeah.
right? In that cocoon and
Yeah,
everything.
yeah, yeah. And painful.
And also the perceived separation
Mm.
of darkness.
Mm.
And like that being in there and thinking the world is dark
Yeah.
from that perspective.
Yeah. And this is the same, like we're talking about avidya, the darkness of not knowing, or like the misknowing, and the guru as the remover of the darkness. Partly, I think my relationship to divinity changed also because of beings in my life that guided me, but because I lost some identities. I know what it is to almost die, to
Yeah.
be. And now metaphorically, I when I realized I am not a dancer, dance is something that I do, I lost this identity in some way. But maybe the more profound way, I fell ill a few years later, and I had still been trying to get back into my dancing, even though it was different. And when I shifted from I'm not a dancer, dance is something that I do. But then I fell ill and I almost died in the beginning of 2015 because they were unable to diagnose me. And my whole body was depleted. I lost nerve function in arms and legs. I couldn't do anything of what I used to do. And in the end, I could barely breathe.
Wow.
And we know that breath in the spirit is the breath of the soul or the eternal soul. And if you don't have your spirit, if you don't have your breath, you are not alive and your spirit is not alive. And so in that process, I lost again. Like even though I was like, okay, I'm not a dancer, but I still extremely identified with my body, what my body can do, what my body can perform, how I am like empowering it by all these practices. That was then circus and acrobatics and still some dancing, but yeah, like other ways of exploring physicality embodiment. And when I lost that identity and I realized that, wow, how could I care so much? But
Wow.
still knowing that there was still something that was the same inside of me. Something hadn't changed when everything had changed.
Oh, yeah.
And it's very humbling to be. I was so weak that I remember being in so much pain and just wanting to go, like, I couldn't really walk, but I went out of my hospital bed to sit in a squat. Like, I was just in so much pain. I needed to somehow stretch. I got stuck. I couldn't get up.
Oh,
And I
wow.
got stuck on the floor because I had no power whatsoever in my whole body. I was too far away from this, like, that you
The
like, help,
button, yeah.
bottom for help.
Yeah.
And I was just like, wow, how humbling that you can lose everything. And why you can be so arrogant, being like, oh, I go to gym every day, I can do all these things. And then suddenly you can't do anything. And that's when something else dies as well. And you realize what is still remaining.
So what did you feel? Like, how did you think about this and move
Uh,
with it?
I was, of course, in a lot of sorrow, in a lot of pain, and in survival mode to begin with.
Yeah.
And then again, it comes back to what is the essence? Like, if I'm going to continue, if I'm not going to be a depressed being that doesn't want to do anything else with my life, what is then the essence of what has been there all the time?
Yeah.
And what is all the time been my pull, the pull of the heart?
What is that?
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
pull of
yeah,
the
yeah.
heart back to its source. I think this is a beautiful way of like also putting towards this like pull that we have towards the divine or towards that which connects us. And in that sense it was like reconnecting with that pull of the heart. And that's when, yeah, like my whole life sort of trajectory changed and my way back into the body was yoga. I had not done yoga before then.
Wow.
And I was on a complete depleted situation. And I remember going back into professional classes of dance, dancing myself to the hospital bed every time. But then in the beginning of season, I think it was 2016, we had a Jivamukti teacher in Stockholm. And he's still there, but he was my first teacher and he was giving it for professional dancers. And I took the class and I was like, uh, I was feeling that similar things that I had felt in that divine moment of dance.
Oh, wow.
And when I was in that class, and it was music and it was movement to music, precision, something deeper exploration of the spirituality. And I was like, wow, this is something that I can connect to. And then again, like that's when my yoga journey started. And I think that somewhat is when we allow things to break down, almost when we allow things to that we uphold so strongly to fall apart,
Yeah.
and then the light can crack through, like the light can shine through the cracks, like.
Yeah. Wow. Sounds like that's what life does to each one of us in some way, shape, or form. Or some people just end up
I think it's very
moving
hard
through.
to realize God without having had a really hard moment in your life
Or moments for
or
some people.
moments.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
like I do think that if you walk around being served and nothing ever challenge you,
Oh, that'll be in itself.
however you're having
That'll get
that.
someone crazy, and there must be something else.
Yeah, yeah.
So let me ask you this. What then for those who are trying to be more embodied? I wonder through our conversation, I think about what's holding us back for someone who wants to feel more connected with their own sense of self, is it fear? And I'm thinking for my own self, is it something that I'm afraid of? And I'm thinking from your story, what you share, that there were these certain, one could call them idols, maybe even,
Mm,
that were there, that we all worship something, and then
mm. Yeah.
yeah,
So you need to be ready to get a little bit out of your head and understand that not everything can be explained by the rationality of things. So we have, if we look at it, like we have the emotional knowing, we have the sensory knowing, and we have the rational knowing. And I've had experience where I realized, like, there's a limit to the rationality. You cannot think yourself to it. At a certain point, you need to let go of trying to structure thinking it through, or you reach like a limit,
yeah,
and that's you need to sense and feel. And so I have always my like after like I took another career path as a producer, but I was still always in the artistic field. I worked with contemporary circus. And then I went to this crazy school in Denmark called Chaos Pilot, which is like built on chaos theory. And it's a change maker school, and education for leaders, change makers. And I like I saw it so clearly that this school was about holistic change, but it was running on the same paradigm as society is. And I was like, how can we make anything different if we are stuck in this paradigm?
yeah,
We are stressed and burned out, and we're supposed to change the world. There's no space for imagination. There's no space for it. And I saw how everyone was so stuck in their rationality and delivery and like everything, like with the structures that we learn. And I studied this with one teacher. She has a course or a system that she created called dynamic emergence. There's the consciousness studies. I was really like, my passion was experience design and process design. So I was diving deep into these topics. And I was taking my team as my prototyping. Like
yeah,
I was like, you guys are so in your head, and you're like, we are sitting here having a rational conversation about trust, about communication, about support, all of these things that actually needs to be experienced in order to be able to work with. So I think like the way, like some people, you can't just send someone to ayahuasca and be like, you're gonna be liberated.
yeah,
It's gonna be like a changed, like a shock to their system.
yeah.
And likewise, you might not just be able to send someone to a yoga class and they will be sold. You need to be able to meet people where they are,
Mm,
but also see that I have this strong belief we're all artists and we're all creative. We just create different art.
yeah,
So connecting to that part in a person, but also connecting to their sense of being. Like I know that I need a physical, for me to sit still in lotus is extremely difficult for finding my meditative state. When you look at the end of the yogic path, is like the dharana concentration, concentration over a long period of time without interruption, meditation. And when you are sustained in meditation over a long period of time without interruption, you're in samadhi. And this meditative state, for me, I
yeah,
experienced through physicality. And so you might need to be able to connect with people. I think we have enough, like maybe you need to connect. Look, neuroscience says this is why this is good, this is how you sell it maybe to someone, but then you need to connect with people on an emotional and sensory level. That's when
yeah,
they sense they self. And very often we go the other way around. I think like this, that's why I feel like this, and so I act, or I like this is why I feel like this, and this is why I sense this is why my stomach is hurting,
yeah,
rather than the other way. My stomach is hurting, I sense this, and being able to reverse it. How does it make me feel? And
yeah.
how calm I feel in sense like this. And so being able to tap into these intelligences of someone that is not used to it, I think is a very important way.
Tell me this, and then I think we have to wrap it up soon.
Okay.
But what did you end up doing for that class? With your students, just mention that with your
With my
teammates, your
team,
yeah.
yeah. So I created a workshop for them that is called Simple Principles of Flying,
Okay.
to fly
Yeah.
like a bird. And I basically translated all of these concepts. There's a practice called fourfold practice that is host yourself, host others, be hosted, and co-create. We
Okay.
think that we can separate ourselves, but we are always in that. And I build a structure that is accumulating the complexity of it in a physical sense. 7 steps towards flying, where everyone is flying in the end. With promise, everyone I ever did this, corporate or dancers or
Yeah.
yogis, everyone flies in the end, literally. And it is embodiment of all these support, communication,
Trust.
trust,
Yeah.
self leadership into this like physical embodiment. So that we have something there where that's where we can start the
Yeah.
conversation. That's where we can learn.
It's so beautiful to chat with you, and we could go on forever and ever and ever. I love this. Before this, we almost missed the podcast, everybody, because we were just talking about this
Yeah,
all
yeah,
of
yeah,
this
yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
But thank you so much
Yeah,
for
thank you.
joining. Thank you for sharing your insight, your wisdom, your story, and I'm so excited for future conversations
Thank
and
you.
grateful for you as always.
Thank you so much. Thank you
Uh,
for inviting me. And I hope that providing some kind of insight to the embodiment is, first of all, we need to just slow down and be able to sense, then we can start to feel.
Yeah,
And I know it's easier said than done, but that's in that little way I hope I can contribute, even though my reach might be limited in the yoga studio. I hope that it's a journey from maybe a highly stressed place to a bottom up regulated
yeah,
connection with a deeper sense of being.
yeah. Said. Thank you.
Thank you.